Sup Shredders, my name is Logan aka Spiderhands and welcome to an SP Reacts where today we have ourselves a track from an act named Shikaz titled Desert Chaos Majnoona. And if we switch over to here we have ourselves a track on the screen on YouTube. This is the official music video. A fierce Arabic techno fusion of darbuka, oud and heavy synths. Should be good. We're going to listen through it from start till finish and we're going to hear what we think. Let's go, let's do it. Shikaz Records.
Majnoona, baby, Majnoona. Echoes loud under the duna. Madness runs like a wild typhoon. This is chaos, no one immune.
Okay, great transfer to the woodwind there, the flute.
Flames in the sand, they burn and rise. Electric heat in the desert skies. The oud is crying, the beat won't sleep. Darbuka's pounding, hearts run deep. Majnoona, bent and Majnoona. Echoes loud under the duna. Madness runs like a wild typhoon. This is chaos, no one immune.
I mean, there's nice variation with the kind of call and response between the flute and the vocals.
On fire they strike the ground, distorted tin, screaming sound. The stars are spinning, the night's alive. Makam scales make the spirits thrive. Twist and turn in the dust we rage. A song
Kind of seems like we just wanted to put a quieter part in just to establish difference there and intensity.
collide in this storm. There's nowhere to hide.
Okay, that was an interesting resolution there harmonically.
Madness runs like a wild typhoon. This is chaos, no one immune. Majnoona, Majnoona. Echoes loud under the duna. Madness runs like a wild typhoon. This is chaos, no one immune.
Interesting 16th note groove underneath it with those.
Old strings shred like a battle cry. The darbuka slaps make the echoes fly through the heat. We're chasing the thrill. The desert's roar bends to our will.
We've got a little solo section here, nice. Okay. Debka is a wild Middle Eastern stomp dance, part celebration, part challenge. Born in Levan, it blends rhythm, unity, and pure attitude. Alright, sweet. Well, that was our listen through this track, and we're going to talk about it more in the conclusion. Because welcome to the conclusion of my review of this track from an act named Shikaz titled Desert Chaos. Now, what do we think this track is about? Effectively, I think it's just about a big old celebration in the desert, you know, people kind of getting down to it, you know. I think that's cool. It's a cool thing to write a song about. People who are into this kind of scene, maybe from that part, you know, like in a place where they have this sort of desert raves. We've been into that. I think the audio-visual experience was really interesting with all the lasers and colors and stuff like that. I think that was pretty neat. You know, like there's stuff to appreciate there. I think one of the things that worked well with it was the vocals. I think if this had been an instrumental track, it wouldn't have necessarily hit as much. To be able to have like a story that is kept well rhythmically, communicated well, with a kind of catchy kind of expression to it there, we seem like we're into it, but not too much. We're a little bit coy about it. I just think, you know, melodically working well within the variety of different sort of like instrumental elements and layers within the piece there. Things make sense musically. And it's a competent performance on the mic. So yeah, I appreciate that. You know, it gets you pumped up to an extent. I think another thing that was done really well is how the vocals kind of popped off and Colin responded to the kind of flute, the woodwind that you had there. Yeah, I think that was well handled. It's nice to have a Colin response there, and to sort of more develop it as you go through the piece, because we had that soloist section near the end. Even in a 2-minute 42 piece, you can't really take that for granted. It's like you expect for there to be like a kind of an ABAB kind of situation there, but no, we just kind of allow a bit of a flurry of, you know, compositional variety there, and I dig the fact that we didn't take the listener's attention for granted. I think following on from that comment, just the actual instrumental makeup in general, it was nice to have those different percussive layers working on a general sort of 16-note groove there, with the main sort of drummers focusing on the chord note accents of the dance pieces there. It was almost like a reggaetonish kind of beat there. Boom, ba bum, 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 ba bum, bum. That was kind of going for a lot of it. And I think that was just a kind of a fun dance beat that's contemporary, modern. People will recognize it to be able to sort of like vibe along to it. And there were lots of cinematic basses and droning kind of synths over top there, and little bits of color that reinforced the root notes and progressions and triads that the melodies from both the vocalist and that kind of woodwind was sort of sitting on top of. I also just want to mention that like the use of the melodic or the harmonic minor and some of those melodies and scale choices kind of goes well with the sort of Arabic kind of Middle Eastern feel to it, and I think that it works well with the fusion of those bass and drum parts. I don't necessarily know if I understood what the change at the 1.02 minute mark was. It was a very different sort of feeling to that there, with the filtered percussion there, the different vocal styling to it, making it a bit more sort of like softer and sympathetic, I suppose. Maybe it's trying to illustrate a sort of different perspective on the kind of like showdown or the throwdown they're about to have there. I also kind of would imagine it was potentially a decision to maybe sort of say, hey, I know that a lot of this is quite heavy up until this point, so why don't we just have a sort of a sweeter sounding bit then, just for a bit more kind of compositional variety within this piece. I think in context it makes sense, even though it's a shorter piece, you can't take the listener's attention for granted. I think the final thing I want to sort of talk about is the studio quality, the audio engineering of it. I think that things are really well leveled. I like the fact that regardless if it's the starting part where it's a bit more sort of like chill there, the vocals aren't having any unnecessary low end resonance there. The percussion is sidechain neatly and enters and sort of links into the bass really nicely. And any kind of like flutes or synth leads or anything up in the top end is segmented and niche nicely within the frequency spectrum there. We're not having things confuse anything. It's very good. Yeah, I think that it'll be interesting to kind of hear where we go from here. I think with the production handled a good amount of diversity compositionally, with the focus on the rhythmic elements being kind of like a desirable thing, and the story being well communicated, especially if you're more familiar with the culture. I think it works well. This is my review of this track from an act named Shikaz titled Desert Chaos Majnoona, and hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, please do go show them some love via their various social medias and their YouTube page. Stay cool and stay safe, and please remember to support your local musicians and artists at this point in time, as they need the help more than ever with all the crazy stuff going on in the world. And I'll catch you in the next SP Reacts. Spiderhands out.